Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. We're moving to the next stage of the pandemic, and as the world resets to the new normal, we find ourselves seeking the right balance between health and livelihood, constantly adjusting the boundaries between liberty and responsibility. Here are tonight's news. President Trump today declared houses of worship essential and insisted that governors reopen them this weekend. Some businesses are also reopening. Let's take a listen.
Thank you very much. At my direction, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is issuing guidance for communities of faith. I want to thank Dr. Redfield and the CDC for their work on this matter, and all the other work they've been doing over the past, what now seems like a long period of time. Today I'm identifying houses of worship, churches, synagogue, and mosques as essential places that provide essential services. Some governors have deemed liquor stores and abortion clinics as essential, but have left out churches and other houses of worship. It's not right. So I'm correcting this injustice and calling houses of worship essential. I call upon governors to allow our churches and places of worship to open right now. If there's any question, they're going to have to call me, but they're not going to be successful in that call. These are places that hold our society together and keep our people united. The people are demanding to go to church and synagogue, go to their mosque. Many millions of Americans embrace worship as an essential part of life. The ministers, pastors, rabbis, imams, and other faith leaders will make sure that their congregations are safe as they gather and pray. I know them well. They love their congregations. They love their people. They don't want anything bad to happen to them or to anybody else. The governors need to do the right thing and allow these very important, essential places of faith to open right now for this weekend. If they don't do it, I will override the governors. In America, we need more prayer, not less. Thank you very much.
The United States starts the unofficial start of summer. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti has begun to reopen facilities from beaches and golf courses to restaurants and retail businesses offering curbside pickup services, but lags behind other parts of California. Densely populated Los Angeles County has suffered more than 43,000 confirmed cases, with 2,049 deaths, well over half of the state's fatalities.
But tonight, thanks to our progress, I'm also announcing that we will open 2 recreation zones along the LA River starting on Monday, on Memorial Day. Now you'll be able to walk and bike by the river as long as you wear your face coverings and follow physical distancing protocols. And while water activities like kayaking are still not permitted and swimming remains prohibited as always, area parks, trails, bikeways will be open. In addition to these new spaces, we're also opening new businesses to get our workers back to work. We need our businesses to stand up. We need our workers to have paychecks. And now stores at indoor malls can offer curbside service to their customers. Shoppers will not be able to enter the malls yet or the stores inside the mall. And we're recommending that malls create specially clearly marked outside pickup zones where shoppers can collect their orders and maintain physical distance. But now we have opened up all retail shops for pickup and delivery. Manufacturers, grocery, drug, hardware stores, construction, and restaurants remain open for pickup and delivery. So let's turn to the data and have a snapshot of where we are this week compared to last week. Today, the county reported 1,072 new cases, bringing the total to 43,052 cases, which represents a 3% increase. Over the past 3 weeks, we have consistently seen about 6,500 new cases a week. It's a reminder this is still with us and still adding new cases. Today, we learned of 35 new deaths countywide, bringing the total to 2,049 deaths, a 2% increase since yesterday.
Meanwhile, a study published in The Lancet says the anti-malarial drugs chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, latter of which President Trump says he has been taking to prevent COVID-19, is linked to an even increase in likelihood of them dying in hospital, and it can double or triple the risk of an irregular heart rhythm. And neither drug benefited patients hospitalized with COVID-19, according to a study published on Friday in The Lancet. The CDC, meanwhile, also updated other prevention guidelines, saying that the virus doesn't easily spread via contaminated surfaces, as originally thought, or spread through animals. The revised information on the CDC website states that while the virus is easily transmissible between people through respiratory droplets, the virus doesn't spread easily through other mediums. The United States has registered more than 1.6 million cases and nearly 95,000 deaths, according to a tally kept by Johns Hopkins University. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization declared Latin America a new epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic, as U.S. President Trump demanded churches reopen despite the ongoing COVID-19 threat. Let's listen in.
So many countries. The situation in Brazil right now, we have, I think, approaching 300,000 cases. I think just over 290,000 cases of confirmed disease in Brazil, with nearly 19,000 deaths. The majority of the cases are from the Sao Paulo region, but also Rio de Janeiro, Piara, Amazonas, and Pernambuco are affected. But in terms of attack rates, the highest attack rates are actually in Amazonas, about 490 persons infected per 100,000 population, which is quite a high attack rate. In terms of the response, our colleagues in PAHO are providing direct assistance to the government, to many of the states that are badly affected, including Amazonas. In a sense, South America has become a new epicenter for the disease. We've seen many South American countries with increasing numbers of cases, and clearly there's a concern across many of those countries, but certainly the most affected is Brazil at this point. We also note that the government of Brazil has approved the use of hydroxychloroquine for broader use, but we do point to the fact that our current clinical and systematic reviews carried out by the Pan American Health Organization and the current clinical evidence does not support the widespread use of hydroxychloroquine for the treatment of COVID-19, not until the trials are completed and we have clear results.
Now, Brazil overtook Russia on Friday as the country with the second highest number of coronavirus infections worldwide, behind the United States, as the Americas emerged as a new epicenter of the pandemic. Brazil's death toll rose by 1,001 in 24 hours. The third time in 4 days it has come in over 1,000. Unlike in Europe and the United States, where the elderly were hardest hit, in Brazil, a significant number of deaths are among younger people who are often driven by poverty to work despite the dangers. Meanwhile, the head of the National Institutes of Health, Francis Collins, said that if the United States is the first to develop an effective vaccine against the novel coronavirus, it has to quickly share it with the world. Take a look.
This is a global pandemic. There are people at risk all over the place. As soon as a vaccine is proven to be safe and effective, we have to figure out how to ramp it up, scale it up, make doses, get them distributed, and make sure that people who need it most have access. Certainly, if we had a vaccine that works, I would want to be sure as quickly as possible it was available there. And in South America, look at Brazil right now. We have a great deal of responsibility. We, as the richest nation in the world, need not to just take care of ourselves. That would be a terrible outcome. A lot will depend on what's the state of the pandemic at that point and where is the greatest need. But personally, I would certainly think that should be a matter of greatest attention, and not sometime in 2022, but maybe even as soon as the end of this year when we actually have the ability to do so. Never tried to make a vaccine this quickly. We have 4 or 5 different approaches. We hope at least one of them will work. But we could very well find ourselves at the end of the year with a lot of disappointment. So people maybe need to take that into account before they start worrying too much about exactly who's going to have access. Maybe none of us will. I hope and pray that's not. There are times where America seems to come across that way. But I hope, at least as far as the scientific effort, the docs and the scientists that are working on this, people will understand that we do all believe that everybody on the planet has value and everybody ought to have a chance to get access to something that may save their lives at a time of a pandemic like this. And we will do everything we can to work with other agencies and other countries to try to make that happen. I do think you have to be clear that companies are going to be spending billions of dollars to produce these vaccines, and you can't expect that they should simply absorb that. So there has to be some reasonable compensation, but they should not be in a circumstance where this turns into a big boost to their bottom line.
President Donald Trump's administration has suggested that while it would share its scientific know-how, it would prioritize the production of doses for the U.S. population from the get-go. But Collins said he absolutely agrees with the French and Chinese leaders that a vaccine should be what they've called a global public good and expressed particular concern for countries in Africa. Now, Dr. Collins, NIH, one of the world's top research centers with a $42 billion budget, is partnering with private companies in the frantic race to find a vaccine against the virus. The Trump administration has set a goal of producing 300 million doses by January, enough to vaccinate the entire population. One of the more advanced experimental vaccine projects in the world so far is the one undertaken by U.S. biotech firm Moderna, which is working with the NIH. The company, which got a government grant of nearly $500 million, reported promising early results from its first clinical test on a small number of volunteers on Monday. The U.S. government has also signed a contract with Paris-based pharmaceuticals group Sanofi in order to ensure it gets priority on future vaccine production. Meanwhile, a Chinese laboratory has been developing a drug it believes has the power to bring the coronavirus pandemic to a halt. Researchers say a drug being tested by scientists at China's prestigious Peking University could not only shorten the recovery time for those infected, but even offer short-term immunity from the virus. Dr. Sunny Shi, director of the university's Beijing Advanced Innovation Center for Genomics, said that the drug has been successful at the animal testing stage. Let's take a listen.
We would be able to stop the pandemic with an effective drug, even without a vaccine. After 5 days, the viral load was reduced by a factor of 2,500. So that means this potential drug has therapeutic effect. In addition, if we inject the neutralizing antibody before we infect the mice, then the mice would be free of infection. No virus can be detected. So this offers the second use as a temporary protection. For example, patient's family or medical workers can use this. According to the literature, the protection time could be a few weeks. We are working on ways to extend this time to a few months, perhaps. Our team has been working day and night in search for the neutralizing antibody. Our expertise is single-cell genomics rather than immunology or virology. When we realized that the single-cell genomic approach can effectively find the neutralizing antibody, we were thrilled. I know many research laboratories around the world are trying to develop this. We simply had an early start, and we had a new methodology only because our group, our center, is specializing on single-cell genomics. We want to see this drug will benefit the whole world. So this collaboration is truly international.
Now, the drug uses neutralizing antibodies produced by the human immune system to prevent the virus infecting cells, which Dr. Shi's team isolated from the blood of 60 recovered patients. A study on the team's research published Sunday in the scientific journal Cell suggested that using the antibodies provides a potential cure for the disease and shortens recovery time. He added that the drug should be ready for use later this year and in time for any potential winter outbreak of the virus, which has infected 4.8 million people around the world and killed more than 300,000. China already has 5 potential coronavirus vaccines at the human trial stage, according to a health official last week. But the World Health Organization has warned that developing a vaccine could take 12 to 18 months. And scientists have also pointed to the potential benefits of plasma, a blood fluid from recovered individuals who have developed antibodies to the virus, enabling the body's defenses to attack it. More than 700 patients have received plasma therapy in China, a process which authorities said showed very good therapeutic effects. However, plasma is limited in supply, according to Dr. Shi, noting that 14 neutralizing antibodies used in their drug could be put into mass production quickly. More than 100 vaccines for COVID-19 are in the works globally, but as the process of vaccine development is more demanding, Dr. Shi is hoping that the new drug could be a faster and more efficient way to stop the global march of the coronavirus. Meanwhile, scientists at the Oxford-based pharmatech company Exscientia are hoping to find a drug against COVID-19 within a year using artificial intelligence technology. In mid-March, they received a set of 12,000 de-risked drugs, drug molecules and molecules that have been checked for human safety, from the Caliber Institute based in California. The lab has selected 4 different viral targets, which are proteins from the SARS-CoV-2, and are checking if they're affecting the molecules. And scientific coordinator Odd Shallier says that it is essential to consider the small molecule drug route, as a vaccine may never be found. Take a look.
We have the protein inside the machine, and we inject drugs, and we determine how they bind to the protein, and from that we can determine whether it's a good drug to be used to treat against COVID or not.
The Caliber Institute has collated this different molecule, or even commissioned or synthesized some of this collection and assembled them in this 12,000 set that is made available to different partners. But we don't know yet if we can identify if globally it is possible to obtain a vaccine efficacious against COVID-19. So we think that we need to also consider the drug route, the small molecule drug route, because and actually Exscientia, our artificial intelligence platform, is able, and primary goal is to gain productivity in drug discovery. So a process that would take in traditional context of drug discovery around 4.5 years, we have shown to be able to deliver in 12 months. Once we have generated all this data, in the spirit of this global effort, we will put all the data package accessible for everybody on an open source repository.
Meanwhile, the antiviral drug Remdesivir cut recovery times in coronavirus patients. That is according to the full results of a trial published Friday night. 3 weeks after America's top infectious diseases expert said the study showed the medication has clear-cut benefits. Last April 29, the director of the NIH, and Dr. Anthony Fauci, who has become the U.S. government's trusted face on the coronavirus pandemic, said preliminary evidence indicated Remdesivir had a clear-cut, significant, and positive effect in diminishing the time to recovery. Take a look.
That the data shows that Remdesivir has a clear-cut, significant, positive effect in diminishing the time to recovery. This is really quite highly significant. If you look at the time to recovery being shorter in the Remdesivir arm, it was 11 days compared to 15 days. And that's a p-value, because what it is proven is that a drug can block this virus. And I'll give you an example in a moment of why we think, looking forward, this is very optimistic. The mortality rate trended towards being better in the sense of less deaths in the Remdesivir group. 8% versus 11% in the placebo group. Different targets. This drug happens to be blocking an enzyme that the virus uses, and that's an RNA polymerase. But there are a lot of other enzymes that the virus uses that are now going to be targets for this. This will be the standard of care. I think it's really opening the door to the fact that we now have the capability of treating, and I can guarantee you, as more people, more companies, more investigators get involved, it's going to get better and better.
Now, complete results from the research, which was carried out by U.S. government agency, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, were published by leading medical periodical, the New England Journal of Medicine. The United States authorized the emergency use of Remdesivir in hospitals on May 1, followed by Japan, while Europe is considering following suit. The study found that Remdesivir injected intravenously daily for 10 days accelerated the recovery of hospitalized COVID-19 patients compared to a placebo in clinical tests on just over 1,000 patients across 10 countries. The National Institutes of Health, of which the NIAID or NIAID is a part, said Friday in a statement online that investigators found Remdesivir was most beneficial for hospitalized patients with severe disease who required supplemental oxygen. But the authors of the trial wrote that the drug didn't prevent all deaths. Given high mortality despite the use of Remdesivir, it is clear the treatment with any antiviral drug alone is not likely to be sufficient, they said. About 7.1% of patients given Remdesivir in the trial group died within 14 days, compared with 11.9% in the placebo group. However, the result is just below the statistical reliability threshold, meaning it could be down to chance rather than the capability of the drug.
That's a p-value.
Meanwhile, in Europe, there's a rush to implement new safety and prevention measures as businesses start to reopen. Take a look.
Per riprendere rispettiamo il protocollo sanitario, che è quello di distanziamento di 1 metro tra passeggero e passeggero. Difatti la gondola da traghetto, che in genere porta 14 persone, adesso ne portiamo solo 6. E anche per quanto riguarda l'affluenza, siamo all'inizio, pochissima gente probabilmente sa che abbiamo riaperto. Speriamo nei prossimi giorni aumenti, perché insomma, un po' di economia fa anche bene alla salute in questo periodo.
Germans usually love their sun-soaked summer holidays
Ci si può
abroad.
tranquillamente recare in boutique, rispettando ovviamente distanze e il numero di clientela all'interno del negozio. Ma prenotando un appuntamento direttamente in boutique tramite telefono, via mail o WhatsApp, si dedica al cliente uno spazio e un venditore.
La prima regola è rispettare tutte le norme di sicurezza nel modo più severo, quindi mascherine, distanziamento, disinfettanti e soprattutto molto pesante per noi e anche per i visitatori, perché saranno molto limitati, dei contingentamenti di ingressi. Potranno entrare per turno soltanto 80 visitatori, quindi pochissimi, ma è qualcosa di assolutamente necessario.
Germans usually love their sun-soaked summer holidays abroad, but fears of a second wave of coronavirus infections have prompted a new holiday destination of choice, their home country. On a recent public holiday, it was only 17 degrees Celsius, 62 degrees Fahrenheit, in the seaside resort of Binz on the island of Rügen. But in the bright sunshine, with families playing ball on a sandy beach and couples lounging around with ice creams, it already felt like the height of summer. It was almost as though the virus and weeks of lockdown since mid-March had all been a bad dream. While half of Germans like to spend their summer holidays elsewhere in Europe, with Spain the top destination, more than a third preferred a staycation even before the coronavirus, according to official statistics. This year, according to Munich-based tour group FTI Group, demand for holidays at home has gone through the roof. Thousands of people have queued up in the early morning in the informal settlement of Iterling, Pretoria, to receive food hampers, masks, soap, and hand sanitizer during South Africa's coronavirus lockdown. Take a look. And in today's other news, a passenger jet in Pakistan has crashed into a crowded presidential district in Karachi. Most of the 98 people on board were feared dead. At least 2 passengers survived.
वो खुला, उसमें से एक बॉडी मेरी गाड़ी के ऊपर गिरी। मेरी गाड़ी की 3 डोर लॉक हो गई, एक मेरा वाला डोर खुला। उसमें मैंने पहले अपने बंदों को निकाला थोड़ी देर बाद, उसके बाद मैंने निकाला। ऊपर जो जहाज के अंदर से बंदा बाहर था, उसकी दोनों टांगें जख्मी थी, बाकी वो ठीक था, शुक्र अल्लाह, बिल्कुल ठीक था और जिंदा भी था और बोल भी रहा था। उसने मुझे कहा मुझे बचाओ, मैंने बड़ा जोर लगाया, खींचा, लेकिन उसकी टांगें बुरी तरह फंसी हुई थी।
Now, the airline named the other survivor as the president of the Bank of Punjab. The Health Ministry for Sindh province, where the southern port city of Karachi is located, on Saturday confirmed that all 97 bodies recovered from the crash site had been on the plane, and at least 19 had been identified so far, while DNA testing was being carried out at the University of Karachi to help name the rest of the victims. Aviation Minister Ghulam Sarwar Khan said the captain, Sajjad Gul, had been described by the airline as a senior A320 pilot with extensive flight experience. Airbus, meanwhile, said that the plane had first entered service in 2004 and was acquired by Pakistani International Airways a decade later and had logged around 47,100 flight hours. PIA promised a full independent investigation. The disaster comes as Pakistanis prepare to celebrate the end of the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan and the beginning of Eid, with many traveling to their homes in cities and villages. And we return now to the drastic proposal from China to tighten its grip on Hong Kong. A measure calling for powerful steps to curb Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement was submitted to China's rubber stamp parliament on Friday, a move expected to fan fresh protests in the semi-autonomous financial hub. Now, a top Chinese legislator told the opening session of the National People's Congress, or NPC, that security legislation was needed to thwart foreign forces that China blames for the Hong Kong unrest. City leader Carrie Lam, who attended the session, vowed to fully cooperate with Beijing over the national security proposal and complete the legislation as soon as possible. Take a look.
我深信建立健全香港特別行政區維護國家安全嘅法律制度同埋執行機制，第一係唔會影響一國兩制、港人治港、高度自治嘅方針喺香港嘅實施工作。佢哋強烈認為落實基本法第23條已經係刻不容緩。
China drew Western condemnation over those plans for a national security law to quash Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement. China made clear it wanted the law passed after Hong Kong was rocked by 7 months of massive and sometimes violent pro-democracy protests last year. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo urged China to reconsider the disastrous proposal, saying it would be a death knell for the high degree of autonomy Beijing promised for Hong Kong. The European Union called for the preservation of Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy. And the foreign ministers of Britain, Australia, and Canada said in a joint statement they were deeply concerned over the proposal, saying passing such a law without the direct participation of Hong Kong's people or legislature would undermine the principle of one country, two systems. The motion, which goes into a vote in China's rubber stamp legislature on Thursday, would authorize Chinese lawmakers to directly enact long-delayed Hong Kong security legislation itself at a future date rather than leaving it up to the territory's administration. After China imposed a law to quell Hong Kong's pro-democracy protests, the U.S. said that it would sanction 9 Chinese entities for human rights abuses. The Commerce Department said in a statement, quote, these 9 parties are complicit in human rights violations and abuses committed in China's campaign of repression, mass arbitrary detention, forced labor, and high-technology surveillance against Uyghurs, ethnic Kazakhs, and other members of Muslim minority groups in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. The Chinese Ministry of Public Security's Institute of Forensic Science and Aksu Wafu Textiles Company will be sanctioned for engaging in human rights violations and abuses, while the Commerce Department penalized 7 companies for enabling surveillance in Xinjiang. The Commerce Department said all 9 entities are now subject to restrictions on exports from the U.S. The newly sanctioned companies specialize in artificial intelligence and facial recognition technology. Tensions are also growing between the world's 2 largest economies after President Trump accused China of misleading the world on the origins of the coronavirus, which first emerged in the Chinese city of Wuhan. Meanwhile, China on Saturday reported 0 coronavirus infections for the first time since it started reporting data in January, a day after Communist Party leaders celebrated major achievements in the virus fight. The virus first emerged in the central Chinese city of Wuhan late last year, but cases have dwindled dramatically from the peak in mid-February as the country appears to have brought the virus largely under control. The official death toll in the country of 1.4 billion people stands at 4,634, well below the number of fatalities in much smaller countries. Authorities in Wuhan have come under fire for reprimanding and silencing doctors who first raised the alarm about the virus late last year, and repeated changes to counting methodology have cast further doubt over China's official data. Beijing has strenuously denied accusations of cover-up, insisting it has always shared information with the World Health Organization and other countries in a timely manner. Eagle News will be right back.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Welcome back. Hawaii is slowly reopening its economy with social distancing rules. We are joined live by our Hawaii Bureau Chief Alfred Acenas, and from American Samoa, joining us live too is Arian Torres. Hello, Alfred and Arian.
Aloha,
Aloha.
Alma. There, it's aloha ahi-ahi. Dito naman, good morning, which is aloha kakayaka, which means good morning, okay? It's
early morning.
It has a different meaning, in Tagalog. Yeah, good morning is aloha kakahiyaka. Okay. Hey, Arian.
Yes, good evening there, and aloha and good morning here in American Samoa as well.
Okay. So Hawaii is slowly opening up its economy. What are the updates over there, Alfred?
Alma, glad you said that, and you presented what's been going on in the U.S. mainland, which is similar to what's going on here. But let me start first with the latest numbers. The total number of cases we've had is 642, which actually went down from 647. The reason for that was, according to the Department of Health here, the results of 5 tests in some of those patients could not be determined the cause to be COVID-19. So the cases were reduced, no? And as far as the percentage of recoveries, we're in the 90 percentile. So 9 out of 10 who get infected pretty much have a good chance of recovery. So that's what the state government is looking for. Also, the reopening involves the resumption of dine-in services in restaurants here in Hawaii, keeping social distancing in mind. Look at, if you see those posters that the city county of Honolulu provided as far as social distancing, for those who have no idea what 6 feet looks like, they've applied some familiar items to kind of give some scale of what 6 feet means, and they could not emphasize enough to ensure not just individuals but even establishments within their premises maintain 6 feet. Whether it's you have a bunch of tables, dining booths, that everyone has to be spread 6 feet or 2 meters apart. Now, the one thing that's to remember here, this groups of no more than 10. So that includes, like for example, a household like our household. We don't have to spread ourselves 6 feet or 2 meters apart. Mm-hmm. For those, only those who are outside of the household are expected to abide the social distancing. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said earlier in the broadcast about religious services, the governor, David Ige, has given the go-ahead for in-person spiritual activities here in Hawaii starting today, actually, May 23. So we'll see some updates and some reactions from a lot of groups, that will avail, and we'll see how they will abide by these new measures, Alma.
Uh-huh. I'm sure new normal measures would be in place in worship services.
Right. And you mentioned also the unofficial start of summer, because this coming Monday for the U.S. is Memorial Day.
Yes.
And even earlier today and in the last several days, lalo na sa in the beaches of Waikiki, like that one. Now, Ron managed to capture some shots that, okay, there's not much activity, but there are some spots around Hawaii that are grouping together in the middle of the water, which is also a no-no. And that's what the local governments are worried about, is being able to enforce social distancing, because what the state here is worried about is experiencing a surge. Also, the number of arrivals here in Hawaii are increasing, especially this month. It's already in the thousands, not back in normal levels, but just in the 1,000 range, which is still a large number because of the need to account for those arriving and to be able to contact trace those who may be deemed to have symptoms. So the accountability aspect on the part of the state and the local governments will make it will prove to be a challenge, especially in the coming months of summertime, Alma.
So when they arrive, do they have to do self-quarantine, self-isolation for 14 days? Is that
As a matter of fact, the state has also extended until the end of June.
Oh.
Mandatory 14-day self-quarantine. And, as I'm watching the reports, there are still those who violate the quarantine. And I wrote an article in our eaglenews.net website that there was one California man who even posted and was even bragging about being outside, and authorities were able to confirm that and managed to catch him before he boarded his return flight. So a lesson out there for those who have plans, who are availing of discounts, so to speak, to come to Hawaii, is that there's still some laws to follow. Otherwise the authorities here will catch you one way or the other. and I wanted to point out, Alma, in addition to the quarantine, lawmakers here, even one of our congressmen, Ed Case, campaigned to the federal government for those who wish to come here to Hawaii. Ideally for vacation, some will sacrifice to stay in hotels, stay in place for 14 days. There's a push now to require pre-boarding tests before even flying to Hawaii. So that's another plan in which it eases the burden on the government here to have to do any kind of contact tracing and accountability. That way, we would screen those who may have symptoms before they even get on board the aircraft, Alma.
That's good. I've been asking all our bureaus because since countries, counties are opening up and the countries are trying to revive the economy. In Hawaii, now you said tourists are starting to arrive now, but what else is the government doing to help the businesses stand up on their feet again, or stand back on their feet again?
Yeah, Alma. I think you've mentioned many times this legislation that Congress passed back in March called the CARES Act. So billions of dollars are currently allocated for the state as far as helping individuals and businesses. Now, both the state and the City County of Honolulu, as well as the other county governments, have similar programs, and I'm just talking in general, to be able to provide incentives to individuals and businesses to spend. That way, there's a demand that's injected by the government, so that the market can still operate. Ika nga. Right now, I remember the mayor just approved a new program to, for those who qualify, if you meet a certain income threshold, or if you're unemployed, or if you are self-employed, which makes it even more challenging because you don't have a company to back yourself up with as far as a fallback. So there are some scenarios in which the government has taken into account, for those who, those who may have lost jobs, they're going to be provided relief.
What about the Filipinos? Were there any Filipinos who got stranded there? And if, for the Filipinos who lost their jobs, how is the government helping them over there?
Now, we don't have the exact numbers as to as far as the communities, no. But I also provided an update not too long ago about the Philippine Consulate General Honolulu has launched a program to connect employers to those who are seeking jobs. And actually, I imagine it's not just for Filipinos. Anyone who can who needs help. It's called Trabajo HI, and more of that is available at the Philippine Consulate General of Honolulu's website, and in our website at eaglenews.net, where I wrote the article on. Right now, it's a partnership between the consulate and several business associations, chambers of commerce, the Filipino groups here, who are working together to reach out to employers and to promote this option to Filipinos for the most part, to have a chance to seek employment elsewhere.
Okay, so let's talk to Arian. Don't sleep on us now.
Hi. Hi,
Kumusta, Arian? How is American Samoa?
Yes, mabuting mabuti. We're good here in American Samoa. And there's still a good news for everyone that American Samoa is still COVID-free.
Galing naman. How were you able to maintain a COVID-free American Samoa? What were your... Congratulations! How'd you do it?
It's actually the protection of the governor here in American Samoa. Ever since kasi na nag-declare ng yung pandemic, ever since na naging pandemic siya, 2 weeks after the declaration ng state of emergency here in American Samoa, ay nag-lockdown na. I think that's one of the main reason kaya wala pa ring cases dito sa American Samoa. And then that was starting March and then until now. And now there's another 30-day request for Hawaiian Airlines for suspension. So supposed to be meron na sanang flight for June 4. But then the governor of American Samoa requested again to the president or CEO of the Hawaiian Airline to extend kaya hanggang end of June ay wala pa ring flight ang Hawaiian Airline from Honolulu bound to Pango, American Samoa.
Bakit Hawaiian Airlines lang ba ang naglaland dyan sa American Samoa?
That's right, Alma. American Airlines is the only one from anywhere in the U.S. Only from Honolulu. Now, of course, you have Samoa Airways, right, Arian? Sana from Independent Samoa to.
Yeah, it's just like England only. Even though there are different countries, even Samoa is independent, but there are 2 Samoas. But then that's all. There's only those 2. And then international, one is the Hawaiian Airline.
Good to remind you that again, and for the sake of our viewers, of course. So, sa American Samoa, how is testing pala? Can you give us an update on the... Yes, go ahead.
Yes, meron na kaming testing dito. Meron ng testing center. at dumating na yung lahat ng equipment na hinihintay. Meron na ring isolated place para just in case na magkaroon ng case. But then so far, sa lahat ng mga natitest, all negative naman ang lumabas. And then continuous pa rin yung yung testing as of right now.
So now we can say legit talaga, 0 cases in American Samoa kasi kumpleto na yung testing.
Yes. Yes.
And schools, kumusta pala? Schools, are they open now? New normal measures in place?
Yes, yung school, ayon, according to the declaration of our governor here in American Samoa, officially closed na siya for the school year 2019-2020. And then we're just waiting for the graduation na lang ng mga students, high school students, na graduation na is gonna be virtual. Okay. They already have their meeting with all the principals, and then both private and public school, it will be virtual na lang. So that will take place by June. Second week ng June siya. And then we're still waiting for the new declaration kung anong mangyayari kasi yung declaration is maglalapse ng June 1. So waiting kami dito kung ano yung magiging school year plan for 2020-2021.
What about reopening of business? Oh, yes. Go ahead, Alfred.
Dito naman sa Hawaii, Alma, graduation season is already underway, particularly for the high schools. For the most part, they're doing this virtually and through a web platform such as what we're using right now. And then what the students and families would do, they're going to drive to the campus. Nakapila sila. And then they're going to be individually recognized at the school parking lot to actually receive their diplomas. Again, there's still social distancing. There's no gathering of large numbers allowed. So it's still going on, especially I think there's several more high schools here in Hawaii that are going to hold their ceremonies, virtual or alternative ceremonies. At the collegiate level, there's nothing that's uniform, or it's really there's not a whole lot of standardized procedures that the University of Hawaii or the other universities here have in place. They just simply recognized those who have completed their degrees, Alma.
Okay. In American Samoa, what businesses are opened now?
Very limited pa rin yung operation hours ng mga businesses dito. Just like yung minention ni Alfred kanina, American Samoa is a U.S. territory. So kasama kami dun sa CARE Act, but still on process kung paano yung magiging distribution, I think, nung funding para dyan. But then, nandyan yung support ng government para maka-recover yung mga businesses dito, especially yung mga small businesses. Kasi until now, since the Code Blue was implemented, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. pa rin yung nagiging operational hours ng mga businesses dito, especially yung mga store to buy essential needs of the people here in American Samoa.
In Hawaii, Alfred, what businesses are open there in Hawaii?
The large malls, I'm sure you're familiar with the name Ala Moana, right,
Of course.
Alma?
Is it open now?
So the large malls as a whole are open, but not all the stores, like the anchor stores, yung mga tipong department stores that have national chains also in the mainland. They're not open yet, as far as we know. Their schedules will probably run differently from the other stores that are here that are being allowed to open. The hours, I believe, and this is something that we will see more evolve, especially come the first week of June. The hours are still modified because to actually promote additional safety measures. So how they're going to extend the hours, when they're going to extend the hours, it's case by case. But that's just part of the gradual resuming back to normal, Alma, for business establishments.
All right. Thank you very much. Any last message? Any plugs?
You mentioned plugs, Alma.
Yes.
Because
I really mentioned
we're
it.
part of the U.S. and we for those who wake up in the morning, on a normal basis during the week, Alma, no. Eagle News Canada has been broadcasting there Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. So Canada, Thomas Likeness, those guys there, who brag about their cups of coffee. Please join them at 7 a.m. Monday to Friday, and Eagle News Washington D.C. I think at 10 a.m. There in the Philippines, where we cover again the latest and greatest on the pandemic and what's being done for us to recover from it. So that's my plug, Alma.
Okay. And Arian, maybe we can join them one time. Okay, so Arian, any last message for us before we go?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you. So that's the update all in American Samoa. Alma?
Okay, thank you. Mag-iingat ka, Arian. Although, congratulations to American Samoa for a successful, they were able to curb the spread of the virus. No virus at all. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
We live in interesting times.
Thank you. Alfred and Arian. Okay. Meanwhile, to the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Boris Johnson's government is touting the country as a global leader in the big money investment race to find a vaccine. Joining us live from the United Kingdom is Annabelle Reynolds. Hello, Annabelle.
Hi, Alma. I'm okay here. What about you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. So what are the updates from the United Kingdom?
So the update so far in the United Kingdom, Britain has the world's second highest death toll in the coronavirus pandemic. It has faced sustained criticism for its response to the outbreak, but Prime Minister Boris Johnson government is leading the country as a global leader in the big money investment to find a vaccine. Ministers claim two studies in particular at Oxford University and Imperial College of London and frontrunners in the international effort. Oxford has now received more than £85 million, $104 million and €95 million, and Imperial nearly has £43 million in the British state funding. Meanwhile, they are hoping for a new manufacturing innovation centre, which can provide enough dose of any vaccine for everyone in Britain within 6 months from next year. The government has pledged £388 million to an international drive to develop vaccines, tests and treatments, and hosting an online pledging conference for a vaccine compact, GAVI, on June 4. The UK continues to lead the global response to find a vaccine, and the government is backing our scientists to do this as soon as possible. According to the Business Secretary, Alok Sharma said on Sunday as he announced further funding. Oxford's effort involves its multidisciplinary vaccine group set up in 1994 to study a new and improved vaccine, and the Jenner Institute, which works on both human and livestock diseases. It's hoping for a vaccine that is based on a chimpanzee adenovirus, a common cold virus which is generally changed to stop COVID-19 reduced in humans. The first free trial began in healthy adults in April, with more than 1,000 vaccinations completed. The next stage will see 10,260 adults and children from a broader age range assessed. According to the World Health Organization counts 118 different projects globally, and Oxford is one of the only potential coronavirus vaccines to have started trials. The clinical studies are progressing very well. According to the head of the Oxford Vaccine Group, on Friday, the university and the cure giant AstraZeneca have meanwhile signed a deal which could see up to 30 million of 100 million amount of the UK market available by September. On Thursday, the firm said it had secured more than £820 million from the US to help the fund production, and has the capacity of 1 billion vaccines. At the Imperial, it's helped the Department of Infectious Diseases has been testing a so-called RNA vaccine example in animals since February. It has a form of generic coding to create a vaccination which delivers instructions to muscle cells to produce an immune response to COVID-19. Testing is due to start in mid-June, before larger-scale trials in October. The Imperial warned that generating dose of the vaccine is very different to having necessary data to show that any vaccine is both safe and effective against the COVID-19. Whilst the UK scientists are actively working on different vaccine approaches, as there is no guarantee that any individual approach will work. Back to you, Alma.
Right. Thank you very much, Annabelle, for your updates. And we're interested to hear more from that vaccine and the developing story on that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Annabelle.
Thank you, Alma. I'm Annabelle Reynolds, reporting for EBC United Kingdom, and we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you. All right, so that's all the time we have for you tonight. In time of physical and emotional distance, we give importance to the unsung service delivered by our frontliners, our news correspondents positioned all over the world. Without them, we would not have the eagle-eye focus on the facts of this pandemic and its continuing repercussions on our lives. To our international correspondents, thank you for staying in touch with our viewers. Stay safe, protect yourselves and others. Good night. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.